Typha latifolia. Nickname for this plant is cattail. This is part 1, and in part 2 I'll be sharing a mnemonic or memory technique to help you commit to memory the most distinguishing characteristics of this plant for identifying purposes. Be sure to watch all of part 1 so that part 2 is understandable. This should be a familiar plant to most people. It is erect, 5 to 10 feet tall at maturity. It's got long leaves. The leaves are individually as about long as the plant itself. And there is one cylindrical or cigar-like flower head or flower spike atop each stem. These cigar-like or cigar-shaped flower spikes develop at maturity. They form in colonies, dense colonies as you see here. When harvesting cattails for edibility purposes or for medicinal purposes, when they're young, they can appear similar to some of the poisonous lookalikes. So it is important to look for last year's cattails. If there are no sign of cattails from the previous year, then you don't have a cattail. Cattails grow in water or on damp soil. They can also be found on floodplains, land which is flooded or moist, swamp-like throughout most of the year. The tips have a tendency to dip downward. The leaves are strap-shaped, about an inch wide, and like I said before, can grow about as long as the plant itself. Now, these flower spikes are divided into two parts. The top portion is the stimulate portion, which is the male, and it is pollen bearing. This bottom portion is a female section. The male section can be up to about a foot long, and the female section can be up to about a foot and a half. The male portion, after the pollen is released, withers away very quickly and breaks off, leaving a small twig approximately 1 to 3 inches long. This is a picture of the densely compact female portion. It is soft, spongy. Male portion. This is more along the pollen bearing stage. Now the female portion progresses from this green, smooth, cylindrical flower spike to the common brown flower spike. This is after it has progressed from immaturity to the mature state. Densely compact hairs make up this flower spike here. Leaves have pointed tips. Progressing along, the female flower spike becomes very furry. This is the papoose. Seeds are attached to these fluffy hairs. Attached to these fluffy hairs here. Notice how the leaves dip downward. It's a close-up of the papoose here. It's got many uses, which are explained on the fact sheet. Male and female portions. They are not evident. You will have to peel the leaves back in order to reveal these parts. Separated about up to about a ½ inch. In the middle, by the twig. The leaves have parallel veins. They are not wavy, as some of the lookalikes might have wavy edges. There are about 5 to 6 leaves per plant. This picture illustrates the fibrous roots. The roots are also rhizomatous, which means that they basically crawl along the ground, underneath the ground, in a rope-like fashion, like a rope being laid on the ground. That's rhizomatous. Male portion for edibility purposes. The male portion bears more quantity than the female portion when they are green. Notice again the separation, up to about a ½ inch separation here between the two sections. Fibrous, roots, rhizomatous. Notice how the roots, or I should say the leaves, twist slightly as they from the base of the plant to the tip of the plant. They twist. The base of these plants are oval shaped, whereas a lot of the lookalikes will have a flat base. And the lookalikes will also unfold in like a fan pattern, WWW type fan pattern. Whereas you'll know you'll have, or one of the characteristics of the cattail is that the individual leaves peel off individually as they encircle the base. That's the difference. In cattail oval, individual leaves encircling the base, which peel off individually, whereas the lookalikes, when they're young and they're not bearing the familiar cattail flower head, they lookalikes unfold in a fan-like pattern, whereas again the cattails are oval. Say rhizomatous root, fibrous. Learning about cattails, you will read about the corms, C-O-R-M-S. This, or these parts here, represent the corms. They sprout or spring from the rhizomatous root here. Spring or sprout ties in with the mnemonic. You have to learn about that or read about that in part 2 or on the fact sheet for this plant. The core is white. You come across a core which is yellow or brown, discard it. Do not use it for eating or for medicine. The roots should also be very firm and not mushy. The roots are very stout, as you can see. And here is an example of some cattail shoots. The leaves have already been peeled away individually. Base oval. This was pulled away from the roots. The roots would be close here to the bottom ordinarily. This is from where these sections are derived from, close to the root. Oval at the base. This section also shows us one of the outer layers, which are foam-like, almost like a plastic / foam, which should be removed before eating. Leaves slightly twisting. Now, there are a couple ways to harvest cattail shoots. You could, one, follow your hand down to the base of this plant and just simply pull. the sprout or the shoot from the root, and then proceed to peel off the outer leaves individually. Again, usually about 5 or 6 leaves per plant, which will expose the inner edible sprout or shoot. Second way to harvest the shoot is to grab the inner leaves closely here at the base and pull straight up. The outer leaves will remain, and what you will have are a handful of inner leaves and the shoot here at the bottom, and the edible portion is right up to about the leaves, tender, after removing the outer foam-like skin. If you felt led to harvest these plants or harvest their shoots by one of the two ways, one of the first things you'll do, along with the other 4 steps shared in the mnemonic, would be to first look to see if you find any other cattails in the area. These cattails may be mature or past maturity and dying and dry. Just as long as you know that you are in a cattail area or a cattail field, you can proceed to the next steps. You see no cattails at all, none from last year and none currently, with the typical cigar-like shaped cattail flower head, then you want to walk away. The edible parts of this plant are the shoots, the immature flower heads, which are green, the roots, the seeds, and the pollen. To learn how to prepare these parts for eating, visit Survival Plants Memory Course and click on Typha latifolia, common name, common cattail, and the nickname is cattail for this plant. This has been part 1, and in part 2 I'll be sharing a mnemonic or memory technique to help you commit to memory the most distinguishing characteristics of this plant for edibility purposes. Thank you for watching.